There are moments in every life when the definition of home quietly unravels and then stitches itself together in new patterns. For Amara Kui, home had never been a single, gentle address. Instead, for as long as she could remember, it was a shape-shifting concept, always on the move, always unknown, always just out of reach. Her father's assignments in the Nigerian Foreign Service and her mother's devotion to teaching linguistics wherever universities would take her meant that home could just as easily be a corridor lined with stacked boxes or the cold, echoing emptiness of a furnished flat. What truly grounded her was sometimes just the familiar scent of her mother's spicy stew bubbling away in borrowed pots, the voices of her parents filling yet another apartment with stories, hope, and the fragile comfort of togetherness. During those years of transience, Amara learned the art of adaptation, how to make lasting friends in fleeting moments, how to memorize the exits and the turns of neighborhoods she'd leave behind, and how to hold tightly to the fragments of her identity scattered across continents and cultures. She could belong anywhere, and yet nowhere fully. So when, at 13, she and her family arrived in Sondo International Business District in the bustling city of Chan, she did not expect to be charmed by its pleasures. Yet the sleek glass towers, the soft saltiness in the sea air, and the endless movement of city life lulled her into a sense of security. It almost convinced her that permanence was possible. Their apartment overlooked Central Park's winding waterway, a place where couples rode at dusk, and the soft glow of office windows cast gentle shapes onto the walking paths. For once, she dared to dream of belonging. That hope was both delicate and dangerous, a fine thread she could not trust. On their second morning in Chan, Amara found herself sitting on the steps outside their building, wrestling with the bright new laces on sneakers her aunt had mailed from Lagos. Each twist and knot felt like a test, not just of her patience, but of her ability to fit into a world that always seemed to reject her roots and her rhythms. As she struggled, a shadow stretched across the pavement, interrupting her silent contest. "You've tied them all wrong," came a voice, clear, self-assured, and imbued with an uncanny kind of neat precision. Looking up, Amara met the eyes of a boy she had seen the night before, thanks to the concierge, Miji Hune. He was tall, older by several years, and possessed a sort of deliberate ease that followed him everywhere. He didn't wait for her permission. Instead, he knelt in front of her, his fingers swift and competent, as he retied her laces using a knot she'd never seen before. A double loop, quick yet oddly elegant. When he finished, he stood with a quiet nod, as if he'd just closed an important business deal. "That should last all day," he said with a wry smile. Amara bristled, her need for independence prickling. "Do you always invade people's space like that?" she snapped. The proximity between their families was almost immediate, drawing Amara into the orbit of the Mins before she could build her usual walls. Mr. Min ran a successful hardware import business and was devoted to the discipline of diplomats and the routine of order. Mrs. Min, however, was the opposite, warm, cheerful, and utterly charmed by Amara's mother, especially her soft Korean and the aroma of her groundnut soup. Shared dinners took the edge off newness. Borrowed umbrellas blurred the boundaries of difference. After a few months, a new household decree seemed to emerge from the laughter and stew. Ji-hoon was to look out for Amara. This duty felt both protective and suffocating. It was surveillance camouflaged as concern. Rule 1. No talking to boys after cram school. Rule 2. No parties unless Ji-hoon was present. Rule 3. If anyone suspicious ever walked Amara home, Ji-hoon would handle it. And handle it he did, always appearing when least wanted, staring down harmless boys until their courage withered, inventing errands that ended precisely by her door, making his presence known as an immovable fixture. Amara, for her part, learned defiance, slamming doors, rolling eyes, and dreaming of freedom that was always offset by the certainty of Ji-hoon's watchful gaze. Yet Ji-hoon was never cruel. Instead, he mastered the art of being infuriatingly calm, secure in his own opinions, and absolutely certain he knew best. The spring formal at Sando High became the stage for their perennial standoff. Amara swore she'd go with anyone but Ji-hoon, choosing a dress the color of hibiscus petals and styling her hair the way her mother loved most. But destiny, masquerading as family interference, had other plans. When the doorbell rang, it was Ji-hoon standing there, impossibly dignified in his perfectly tailored suit and clutching a restrained bouquet of pale pink ranunculus. "Your parents thought it would be a shame to miss this," he remarked, with a script as plain as his expression. "Subscribe to the Untold channel and like it. Our vibrant stories will add years to your life. Join our storytelling club and tell us in the comments, where do you listen to them from?" Resigned, Amara accepted the flowers, the fate, and the inevitable shadow he cast over her evening. On the dance floor, he hovered like a bodyguard, neither jealous nor absent, but steady. As he escorted her home in the silent softness of midnight, hands jammed in his pockets, he broke the stillness. "You look better when you're not frowning," he said, voice tinged with a rare sincerity. Amara shot back, "And you look better when you're not ruining my life." He laughed, quiet but free, a sound that haunted Amara all night, because it was the kind of laugh that already seemed like something she'd eventually miss. It was never solely antagonism that bonded them, though the friction was real enough. In moments of crisis and awkward joy, Amara and Ji-hoon found the lines between annoyance and affection blurring. But life, as it always does, intervened. Ji-hoon's path soon demanded he leave for Korea's mandatory military service, a departure that cut their daily rhythm in two. Amara, meanwhile, was destined for Lagos, where higher education and a residency in clinical psychology awaited. Lagos, for all its chaos and raw vitality, embraced her. Days were noisy with Danfo conductors' shouts, and evenings soothed with pepper soup and the patter of rain against tin rooftops. Training as a psychologist, Amara learned not just to listen, but to absorb other people's crises without drowning. Her life became routine. Clinic hours in Surulere, nights ending with ginger tea in the solitude of self-sufficiency. It was a sensible existence, safe, steady, perhaps incomplete. The pull toward Korea returned as a whisper, an ache brought on by the scent of yeast from Sando's bakeries, or the cool wind off the sea at dusk. Eventually, the whisper grew into resolve. Amara accepted a short-term contract at a wellness center in Incheon, Okon Mind and Body, and purchased a one-way ticket, certain of nothing except the need to return. Returning to Korea was nothing like Amara had imagined. The cities she vaguely remembered had swelled, their silhouettes sharp against the sky, bracing for the noise of new ambitions. Incheon itself felt both foreign and familiar, a place that hummed with old memories and new anxieties. Her role at Okon Mind and Body provided daily purpose, but nights were punctuated with longing, the kind that hid in empty cups and echoed in silent rooms. Sometimes she'd walk past the waterway in Central Park, each step a tug toward before. But the city had shifted. The faces she crossed in the street were full of hurry, not recognition. Languages blended in the air, Korean sharp against strands of English and the occasional Yoruba from expats. Those first weeks, Amara filled diaries with half-written letters to Ji-hoon, each one abandoned out of pride or uncertainty. Should she even reach out? Her last memory was of his abrupt goodbye. No promises, just a pressed smile and a resolute "take care." But the city kept spinning, pressing Amara into the flow. Eventually, she took the easy way out, tracking him through an alumni chat group, a digital lifeline she expected to snap. The message she typed was short, almost businesslike. "Back in town. If you free, dinner?" She hit send and breathed, heart pitching with anticipation. Their reunion was nothing short of awkward. Ji-hoon arrived at the restaurant early, his hair cropped from months in the army, jaw set with new gravity. Where he once wore easy jokes and loose shirts, now he bore the subtle marks of time, wrinkles at his eyes, a quiet reserve that made Amara hesitate. For the first few moments, their conversations skittered across the surface. Traffic, recent concerts, the absurd price of imported mangoes. It took almost the entire dinner for them to break past old walls. Finally, with unspoken relief, Ji-hoon leaned in. "I miss this," he said, voice rough with emotion. Amara felt her confidence waver, searching for meaning in the sudden vulnerability between them. The pull was undeniable. After dinner, they walked along the city's lantern-lit promenade, talking about everything that mattered and the 1,000 reasons they'd avoided it for too long. Ji-hoon confessed his struggle with post-military restlessness. Amara recounted stories from her clinic, sometimes funny, sometimes heavy. The air between them carried a spark from old days, edgy, hopeful, and brimming with new possibility. What followed was a season of rediscovery. They became inseparable, partners in exploration, late-night confidants, eager witnesses to each other's unfolding ambitions. Weekends meant hikes up misty hills, cozy hours in bookshops, and grilled street food shared without hesitation. For the first time, Amara allowed herself to dream alongside Ji-hoon, to imagine futures that threaded both their lives together. Weekend getaways, maybe even a tiny apartment, cluttered with all the things couples argue about and can't bear to throw away. Their dynamic was still marked with teasing, banter finely tuned from years of sparring. But the arguments now led to laughter instead of sulking, and silences were a comfort, not an absence. Friends noticed their chemistry, the way Ji-hoon's steady calm anchored Amara's fierce independence, and how her laughter lit up occasionless days. With every shared secret, every co-authored plan, Amara felt her heart unclench. She understood, finally, what home could mean. Not a place, but a person, a promise, a daily choice. Heartbreak came swiftly and unexpectedly, carried in the form of an offer Amara could not ignore. A senior position opened at a prestigious clinic in Sydney, Australia, an opportunity so rare her mentors insisted she take it. The idea of leaving Ji-hoon so soon after rebuilding their connection was agonizing. Torn between the drive to succeed and her longing for roots, Amara agonized over the decision, flipping coins, losing sleep, writing and rewriting every possible ending in her mind. Her parents, pragmatic as ever, pushed her toward ambition. "You don't build your future by staying still," her mother reminded her gently, over a long-distance call. Voice steady but loving. But Ji-hoon surprised her. He wasn't angry, nor did he resort to his old protectiveness. Instead, he challenged her. "If you don't take this, you'll resent me and us. Do what you need to do." "I know you'll find your way home." Again, Amara accepted the job. The months leading up to her departure were bittersweet, colored with intense emotion. She and Ji-hoon made the most of every shared minute, conscious that change was always on the horizon. Their parting was nothing like the awkward goodbyes of the past. This time, it was full of love, pain, and promise. Ji-hoon drove her to the airport, hands gripped tightly on the wheel, silence between them, thick with unspoken hope. At the gate, he hugged her fiercely. "Home is wherever you want it to be," he murmured, voice shaking. The flight to Sydney was long, and each new skyline brought both anxiety and excitement. Amara faced her future with a fragile courage, trusting that her story was far from over, that every goodbye, every change, every new beginning was stitched together by love, by the 100 small choices that define belonging, and by the hope that one day, heartbreak and home might become the very same place. Settling in Sydney was like stepping into another world, a place defined by its dazzling beaches, sprawling parks, and a multicultural buzz that felt both invigorating and unfamiliar. Amara's days quickly filled with the responsibilities and challenges of her new senior role at the clinic. The work was stimulating, often overwhelming, and demanded every ounce of her expertise. Clients carried stories etched with sorrow and survival, and Amara pressed onward, determined to make a difference. Evenings, though, were awash with a different set of emotions. Loneliness crept in at odd hours, and new friendships, while promising, carried none of the rich history she missed so dearly. Yet the city's vibrance offered small, necessary comforts. She learned to savor rich, flat whites at the corner cafe, to cheer with strangers at footy matches, to lose herself in live music at Darling Harbour. The careless sunlight on her skin reminded her that life could still feel warm, even far from the places she once called home. She joined local Nigerian community groups, which became little islands of familiarity. Voices that echoed her childhood, lessons bloom, spices that wrapped her new apartment in memories of Lagos and distant laughter. Throughout all of this, her connection to Ji-hoon endured, changed, complicated, but intact. Their calls became lifelines, bridges across time zones and distance. Some nights, their conversations were filled with laughter over nothing at all, tangled in stories and dreams. Other nights, sadness slipped between the words, and longing surged unspoken through the crackling phone lines. They sent each other little pieces of their days, a photo of Amara's book-filled desk, a video from Ji-hoon of cherry blossoms blooming in Chan, a brief message on rainy mornings, "Miss you." As the months passed, Amara poured herself into work, yet always carried a subtle ache, a searching for a kind of belonging that had eluded her since childhood. She once told Ji-hoon, "Sometimes I think I'm always running, toward something, away from something. I'm never sure." His answer, simple and steady as ever, echoed through her. "Just promise you'll let yourself rest when you need to." We've got time. Seasons changed quickly, both in Australia and in Amara's heart. New colleagues became friends. Her clinic flourished under her leadership. She started leading workshops on mental health for immigrants, blending her worlds together in ways she hadn't dared before. People gravitated toward her authenticity, her open smile, her willingness to listen, to old friends, and always to Ji-hoon, whose gentle faith in her rarely wavered. But home was still a riddle. Her phone filled with snapshots of Sydney's sunrises, of feasts shared under golden light, and of quiet tears shed on her balcony while watching rain blur the distant skyline. Through it all, she clung to routines, Sunday walks along the Bondi Cliffs, phone calls at dawn to catch Ji-hoon before he ended his day, handwritten letters that took weeks but carried her heart across vast oceans. In the quiet spaces between calls and emails, Amara found herself questioning what she truly wanted. Was she destined to search forever for a place to anchor her heart? Or was there another way, one that didn't require her to choose between ambition and love, between movement and stillness? Her days in Sydney grew richer, layered with accomplishment and warmth, but always shadowed by a longing she couldn't shake. Ji-hoon remained present in every silent wish, every quiet hope, tucked between work and waking. One autumn, as red leaves drifted down Sydney's avenues, Ji-hoon surprised her with an unexpected call. "I have some leave coming up," he said, his voice edged with nerves and excitement. "If you want, I could visit?" Amara's heart leaped, hope and fear tumbling together. She hesitated only a second before saying quietly, "I want that more than anything." The wait for Ji-hoon's arrival seemed endless, stretching across days heavy with anticipation. Amara cleaned her apartment twice over, searched Sydney's back streets for the best hidden restaurants, and rehearsed lists of things to say and places to show him. The moment he stepped through the arrival's gate, the world narrowed to his familiar smile, to the way his presence brought every crowded detail into sharp relief. All the months apart slipped away as they embraced. The city grew less vast, the air less foreign. For 2 weeks, they explored Sydney like children discovering a new world together. They splashed barefoot at Bronte Beach, laughed breathless under city lights, and found joy in small things: noodles slurped in Chinatown, long tram rides with no destination, the quiet companionship of simply existing side by side. Their conversations turned serious, too, about future dreams, family expectations, the possibility of bridging continents, not just with calls, but with courageous, life-altering choices. As the days dwindled toward Ji-hoon's departure, Amara felt an unfamiliar courage rising within her. For the first time, the idea of choosing home rather than stumbling upon it seemed possible. They talked long into the night, laying bare their fears and hopes. Ji-hoon confessed the pressure he felt from his family to uphold tradition, to remain close, to carry forward the responsibilities of a dutiful son. Amara, in turn, grappled with her own drive for independence, the longing to excel, to pull doors open for herself, yet never let go of the hands she loved. Their future hung between two worlds, Korea's crowded city streets and Sydney's wild coastline. They weighed practicalities, visas, careers, parents, and passports. But beneath those logistics ran a deeper truth. Love, if tended fearlessly, might prove stronger than geography or custom. Amara proposed a plan both bold and simple: alternate years between their cities, supporting one another's ambitions while building a shared life across boundaries. Ji-hoon, after a long silence, nodded. "It's reckless," he said, "but maybe that's what we need." The decision energized and terrified them both. In the following weeks, Amara's days were a whirl of emails to embassies, calls to her employer, complicated paperwork, tangled with promise and nerves. Ji-hoon began talks with his family, negotiating visits, explaining dreams that stretched beyond familiar borders. Their commitment to crafting a life together wasn't without cost. They faced skepticism, gentle warnings, and inevitable doubts. Friends, too, questioned the effort. Love, they said, ought to be effortless. But Amara knew better. Love, in her experience, was 1,000 daily choices, sometimes easy, sometimes almost impossible, but always deliberate. She found peace in the challenge. Ji-hoon found purpose in standing beside her. Their bond, forged in years of banter and rivalry, now strengthened by distance and determination, became a testament to what both had learned in their years apart: that belonging was something they could choose, again and again, every day. The first year of their arrangement was a kaleidoscope of new beginnings. They spent months in Sydney, blending routines: Amara's work at the clinic, Ji-hoon's remote business consultancy, evenings tangled in books and laughter. They volunteered together, teaching mental health workshops to immigrants and local students, their shared purpose drawing them closer than ever. When the year circled round, they moved to Chan, the city where their story began. Amara adapted to local practice, taking Korean language classes and immersing herself in community outreach. Ji-hoon reveled in having both their worlds in reach: old friends and new, family dinners and markets, the comfort of shared histories. There were moments of friction, too. Days when cultures clashed, when homesickness creeped in, when the weight of compromise felt almost too heavy. But with each challenge, they found new ways to soothe one another's hearts. Amara's unfiltered honesty and Ji-hoon's steady patience became their mutual source of strength. Year after year, their tapestry of home and heart grew richer, pieced together from travels and transitions. Lessons bloom. They built traditions that belonged uniquely to them. A midnight picnic by Sydney's harbor on their anniversary, a sunrise run in Chan each spring. Far-flung relatives visited. Friends from both continents became honorary family, and their apartment bloomed with tokens of everywhere they'd been. A Yoruba mask above the mantel, Australian shells piled in a glass bowl, a scroll of Korean poetry in the hallway. Their love was no longer simply a bridge. It became a destination. They learned to embrace the uncertainty that marked their lives, to cherish fleeting joys and trust that together they could weather any storm. Amara found herself teaching not just psychology, but the art of resilience. The truth that courage meant stepping forward, even when the path was unfamiliar. Ji Hoon became her partner, not just in life, but in creating worlds for others, a mentor, a confidant, a friend whose faith never flickered. Years passed, and the meaning of home finally settled deep within Amara. It was not defined by the city outside her window or the passport she carried. Home, she realized, was a mosaic. The laughter shared over stew, the reassuring whispers after hard days, the feeling of being seen and cherished. It was the promise in Ji Hoon's eyes, a kind of faith that spanned language, loss, and longing, a refuge she carried with her, no matter the address. Looking back, Amara saw how each choice had woven the fabric of a story larger than her own. She had learned that belonging was not a place to find, but a life to build carefully, bravely, with open hands and an open heart. But always, always, their story was an invitation to choose each other, to redefine home, and to turn each uncertain beginning into something dazzling, enduring, and true.